I want to paint you a picture. The animation landscape in the early 2010s was an absolutely bizarre time. Disney had finally brought itself back from the 2000s mess with a 1-2-3 punch of Tangled, Wreck-It Ralph, and Frozen. Pixar had just made 3 of its least regarded movies up to that point with Cars 2, Brave, and Monsters University. And the Minions were rising up to become a juggernaut that would shape the world of theatrical animation forever by taking the Ice Age model of marketing and perfecting it. It's a weird set of years for animated film. Now this leaves us with one studio. How was Dreamworks doing? After a 2010 filled with 3 of their best films to date, they were getting mixed results. While their franchises were doing pretty well at that point, almost all the new films they were trying to get off the ground were falling flat on their face. 2010's Megamind was successful and a warranted cult classic, but compared to the rest of the films at the time, it made less money than they were used to. Then, Rise of the Guardians, another one of their best films, was a bomb that cost so many employees their jobs. While the Croods managed to pick things up, everything fell apart with Turbo. Turbo was a disaster that was by all means the film's fault. Don't watch Turbo, y'all. 11-year-old Phineas knew it was bad, and he looked hoodwinked too. All of these events were making the spotlight seem so much harsher to see if DreamWorks' next standalone film, Mr. Peabody and Sherman, could shine. But don't worry, it's a film based on a rather forgotten cartoon that had been adapted to the cinema 3 times before and failed to make a splash each time. I bet that nothing will go bad for this one, though. Who could have known? Even though on the outside, Mr. Peabody and Sherman looks rough, as someone who's watched it, I can promise you that this one's great. Seriously, it's one of the gems DreamWorks released as they were entering their darkest hour. Mr. Peabody and Sherman focuses on a dog genius named Mr. Peabody as he tries to raise his son Sherman and finally send him to school. At school, Sherman winds up getting picked on by a girl named Penny, and he winds up biting her, kick-starting the plot of the entire movie. Following the bite, the government starts to question whether Peabody can take care of Sherman because he's a dog and Sherman's a boy. And meanwhile, Peabody decides to invite Penny and her parents over to smooth things up. And then it gets into the plot. Now, a lot more things actually happen in this movie, but the pieces are all set into place for the story that's about to be told, and this is a spoiler warning, because, yeah. If you want the short end of the review, it's one of the most underrated animated films of the 2010s, and let's dive into it, shall we? So, a lot of animated films casts don't stand out. There's a lot of characters who exist just to make stupid jokes that only kids like, and a lot of these things are attributed to the issues with the animation age ghetto, which is a topic for another video down the line. But going into Peabody and Sherman's cast, it's small and sweet. There's 3 characters who matter to the plot: Peabody, Sherman, and Penny. Peabody is the heart of this movie. You get to know him, his morals, and the discrimination he faces rather well. I love the touch about how he literally adopted Sherman from being tossed out and left to die on the streets and just raised him as his own. His caring nature about everything around him is one of the tent poles of his character. He's even great on a comedic level because I just love his love of puns. I need to preface that I am a pun lover who belongs in the Punjin, by the way, so it's just great seeing these play out on screen. Also, Ty Burrell should just voice more characters. He's a great actor as shown in like Modern Family and Muppets Most Wanted, and he just knocks it out of the park here too. So much of Peabody's charm is carried by his unique voice. But the rest of this cast is no slouch either. Sherman is such a great character to follow throughout the movie as well, in a film that would have had such an easy time designating him as the dumb one to foil Peabody's intelligence. The film doesn't go with that at all. He's still learning a lot about the world, and Peabody's trying to be the best dad and teach him all he knows, but I think his curiosity makes him incredibly endearing. He winds up being one of the better child characters in animated film, and certainly one of the best of the DreamWorks roster. Finally, I think that Penny fits into the trilogy of main characters perfectly. While she starts the film being cold and prejudiced in her alpha student energy, I think she gets a really great arc of warming up to the rest of the main cast, to the point where by the end you can see exactly how her and Sherman's friendship works, and the borderline of a puppy love situation in that I said puppy love about a dog movie. Are you proud of me? Each of the 3 sequences in the middle of the movie gets the time to showcase the dynamics between the main cast. Peabody and Sherman spend Egypt together, Sherman and Penny spend time in Italy, and finally Peabody and Penny get some time together in Troy. It's really great to see all the dynamics in the main cast get explored, especially because the dynamics evolve so much over the film's runtime. As far as the extended cast, I think none of them fit the role of in-depth characters, but they make a good supporting world for the film to play off of. For instance, Penny's parents wind up being interesting threats at the very start, but the turn was so quick and kind of delightful. Usually you'd think a film like this would just draw it out forever, but no, they go kind of quickly through it, and Their disdain for Peabody gets solved relatively quicker than you'd ever expect. And as the film goes through history, we get to see unique imaginings of many historical figures, and most of them wind up great. The highlights being Stanley Tucci's Leonardo da Vinci and Patrick Warburton's portrayal of King Agamemnon. Editing note, that took me like 5 million tries. By the way, Patrick Warburton's like overused in animation, people say, but I disagree. I think he's lovely whenever he shows up, and yeah, I'll definitely have Patrick Warburton narrate my life. And a little shout out is they got Mel Brooks to play Albert Einstein, and it's just one of the funniest things to be able to say in all of cinema. Mr. Peabody and Sherman, Mel Brooks plays Albert Einstein. That's not gonna get old. The other major highlight for the cast is the film's technical villain, Miss Grunion. She's like the rest of the supporting cast, where she's not really too much of a character, but she winds up being a stand-in for the bigoted battle that Peabody faces with adoption. Allison Janney plays her, and yes, she does the same exact voice she gave Gladys in Over the Hedge. Imagine just having an entire career of playing Karens. Alright, now let's get into the film's heart. So, while Peabody and Sherman is a funny movie, I think its heart and charm are really where the film shines. It's not nearly as bombastically over the top as other Dreamworks films, like there's a few pop culture references and potty jokes, sure, but like, when they're there, it's just more tasteful per se. Most of the humor in the film is puns, and it's kinda great. Also, I'm not good enough as a history nerd to get all the historical references, but there's a lot of them in there. Going back to the heart in this movie, while there's no spectacularly done themes to break all expectations of cinema, I think its themes of found family where two people who never had any home find a home in each other is really well done here. It makes so the ending where Sherman rallies to save Peabody feel so much more powerful. Yeah, the animation. This film's animation is so beautifully stylized. All the colors in every setting pop so well off the characters, and a lot of the action's a joy to watch, with the characters' expressiveness also standing out as one of the film's other strengths. This film has so much going for it, which makes its tragic fate even sadder. Mr. Peabody and Sherman manages to stand out as probably one of the most underrated Dreamworks films. In a studio that at the time was beginning its descent into no longer being a major player in theatrical animation, it stood out. Starting with this movie, it was all downhill for the new Dreamworks franchises. The next three non-franchise films were Home, Trolls, and The Boss Baby, and there was nothing left to show for it long term. It's an unfortunate fate, and something that we will definitely be talking about at a later date, because after this film, we enter the dark age of Dreamworks, and in the real world, there's no way back machine to get us out of it. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end. If you liked the video, please subscribe. I mean, subscribe. I only say this word because YouTubers are kind of contractually obligated to say subscribe a little too many times, so subscribe. Subscribe. No. In all seriousness though, thank you guys for watching the video. Hopefully you can comment, like, do what all you guys do on your internet existences. I'm proud of you. And have a fantastic rest of your day. Yeah. She gets a really great art. What is a word? I need to ask that question. Patrick Warburton's portrayal of Agamemnon. Oh my gosh.